This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I discuss the tragic loss of Coach Mike Leach of the Mississippi State Bulldogs. We discuss the impact that he had both on the game and life and what this means for football going forward. And then we also break down all the free agency moves of the MLB. And then we finish up by discussing, are the Browns even got a chance to make the playoffs? All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben. That's Josh. And what a crazy week of sports it's been. Some crazy news that's been happening, free agency, all these different things are happening. But we hope you're having a great holiday season. I know many schools are getting ready to go on break. I know that many people probably are getting ready to go visit family and all that. But we're glad that you're listening, tuning in to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. Just to get out of the way at the beginning, make sure you go follow us on Instagram at baseline.podcast, where you can find all the story updates, things that we add and so on. And I will say there's a lot of big stuff happening at the end of this month, but hey, there's been some crazy things happening so far this month. Josh, where do we start today and how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing good, Ben, but excuse me. I know we're trying to avoid like all the college football topics in this episode, but I think we do got to kick it off with Mike Leach, his passing. It's crazy. He was just, the week before leading Mississippi State to a win in the Egg Bowl. And then a week later, believe it was heart attack, stroke, like a lot of things just happened and ends up passing away in his 60s. I can't remember how old exactly, but always a fan favorite of everybody. It seemed like innovative in college football with the air raid offense, just a great overall dude. It seems like everybody was a big fan of Mike Leach overall.
Yeah, I think I don't know when your first really encounter with Mike Leach was. I know for me,
it was 2008 matchup between Texas Tech and Texas. That was the first time I heard of Mike Leach and got an idea of like who he was.
Yeah, like for me, it was about that time too. I remember like, and it really wasn't. I knew who he was. He's a very innovative coach. It wasn't until he went to Washington State when he started having these weird press conferences and like just basically saying like, dude, I don't care what people think about me. I'm going to say what I want and go for it. And I think that's what like almost re-innovated the role of a head coach. Like you don't have to be so stuck up and like so narrow-minded, but you can have a little fun and do stuff.
Yeah, Mike was just like one of the boys, it seemed like. And I mean, you got to be to be able to get questions like he does.
Oh, yeah.
Some of his most, I guess, famous rants are like which mascot would win out of all the Pac-12 mascots and about planning a wedding. And
that was great. That was
stuff
great.
Like one of my favorite lines, though, was it was this season, actually, when he was talking at the end of the press conference about how he's afraid that his players, like their great grandsons and granddaughters and stuff, are going to like eventually just lose their arms because of the lack of use in the game, and how like eventually evolution is just going to take away their arms. And then by the time, a few generations goes down, their arms are totally gone. Definitely a great clip. If you didn't see it, definitely got to look that one up. And then another clip this year, I think, was when he's going along the sideline and just tipping over all the chairs for the receivers.
Oh, yeah.
You guys don't deserve to sit down now. Like,
that was great.
All kinds of stuff like that. And yeah, that really did come, I think, after he got to Washington State. At Texas Tech, I don't know how talkative he was there, but he really became the personality Mike Leach, I think, once he got to Washington State. And then continued at State. And the best part about that whole thing about the wide receiver chair is you see that like person that comes up, like the student assistant or whatever, is just like putting up the chairs right after he does that. Like, oh, okay, gonna put that back up, right? But okay, Mike, you made your point, but
yeah, it was so awesome. I mean, David Cohn, if you guys don't get to go check it, go listen to his he shares his thoughts on Mike Leach, and really go take a chance to listen to that. It's also Charlie Kirk. I know we're not a political show, but Charlie Kirk did a great just what Mike Leach stood for was just the American dream, and he believed in America. Even he goes, I think there was an interview where basically he was asked like, why did you vote for whoever you voted for? He goes, look, I don't care who you vote for. I don't care who my grandma votes for. This is a free country, and we should all believe what we want to believe. And to me, that was Mike Leach, an innovative on the football field, but a true American off the field. And if you ever watch Mike Leach, he looks like just a guy you want to hang out with. He looks like an uncle, that you just want to go toss the ball with, and have fun. He's just fun. And to me, it made me love football a little bit more. And I said that when I posted on our story, I said it's like we lost a truly great one, and I mean that. I think Josh, you can agree with me too. Like, there's not many coaches that like when they pass away that you're like, man, like we're really gonna miss this like personality as much as we are with Leach.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily that Leach will be remembered for like all of his wins. I think his career winning percentage is like 59%.
Yeah,
But I mean, for what he did for the game of college football, just with the air raid and with the personality, not really caring what people think about him, living the American dream, like you said, with that line about who people vote for. Definitely a likable guy, and I think everybody's gonna miss him having him in the sport.
yeah, and I also want to give hats off to Mississippi State's football team to say, hey, we're not canceling our bowl game. We're going to go play. And I think that shows you what Mike Leach meant to that team. And I think that shows you what Mike Leach meant to the football scene.
Yeah. One of their assistants, Nick Arnett, I believe, is taking over, got promoted.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there with Mississippi State going forward. But yeah, that's might be all that we touch up on college football today. But want to switch the gears.
There is breaking news, though, by the way, that Drew Brees is going to be the interim offensive assistant coach for the bowl game for Purdue. I just wanted to throw that out there. That just happened as we're recording. So
I think that's like an audition for a larger role.
Maybe. I mean, the head coach has already been chosen. It's the defensive coordinator from Illinois is going to be the new head coach for Purdue. So I'm guessing it's more of, does he want to coach or does he want to go back and be broadcaster? I think that's the decision he's making.
Maybe a little bit of both. Yeah, Purdue's just like, yeah, for everything you did for us when you played here, we'll give you that chance to get into coaching, see what you think of it, and then you can decide what you want after that, because he does have a pretty contract broadcasting too.
But before we move on, Josh, what is one word to describe this transfer season and the portal and everything? Give me one word to describe it.
I mean, you could say chaotic, wild. I know it's 2 words, but no rules, and this is what happens.
Unnecessary right now. That's like a thing that comes to my mind. Like, you could wait until after the championship game, like just wait about 7 weeks, and I think you'd be in a better spot.
We haven't really seen anybody from the playoff teams do this yet. That's probably true, happen.
Yeah.
But at least everybody that's, I guess, in a meaningless bowl game or just trying to get out soon, they're all doing that now.
Yeah. So Josh,
a lot of kids. I think, did they say over 1,000 kids went in day one?
Yeah, it was. I think the total now is upward. It's upwards over 1,500. I'm pretty sure. I know that they said that they're projecting there'll be like probably 500 that don't even get a position in D1. They'll have to go to a different FC or whatever.
You guys have probably seen the graphic floating around of, I can't remember if it was 247 that put it out, but 42% of kids end up getting left in the portal. They don't find another.
That's crazy.
You got to go to like D2 or something like that.
And it's weird. And it's weird, Josh, we talk about it. Like I think you mentioned it. Was it you mentioned it? I think a couple of weeks ago, you're saying like, when does it come to the point when the kids stop just trying to chase a dream? Like, we look at the guy that transferring from Pitt, right? That's going to be his 4th school in 4 years. Like, when do these guys stop chasing and finally just stick at a place and develop? Because I think the issue you're going to run into is that guys are not going to develop. They're just going to be in this like rotating like circle. They're not going to be truly where they need to be, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's JT Daniels is one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Who it is.
Went to Georgia, went to West Virginia, and now he's in the portal again. It's like, dude, if you couldn't like do good at any of those places, what makes you think that like the 4th one will be like, okay, this is where I turn into an NFL quarterback?
No, yeah.
Now, JT's at least gotten to play everywhere he's gone, but there are some of these kids that are just like 3 stars that are like 3rd stringers as freshmen. They're like, wham, I want to go and play somewhere. And then they find out that, you're just a 3-star. You're not that important. Nobody's like beating the doors down to bring you into their program. They can go and literally recruit a new 3-star kid and start from scratch, developing him from the ground up. And I think that's what most of these kids are finding out is that, oh, shoot, the grass isn't always greener.
Do you think it's going to level out? Do you think we're going to get to the point where it levels out and then it's going to be less kids going in the portal because they realize it's kind of worthless at sometimes?
It could happen. You could see that, and eventually like enough of those kids are going to get left in the portal that I think others will start to take notice, and it'll be like, okay, if you go in the portal, man, unless you were like a starter before, you're only going to have like a 50-50 shot of finding a new home. So we think twice about that.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy. And also what's crazy, Josh, is that, we were wrong about the Browns. I'm just thought I would mention the Browns before we move on from football for the day. The Burrow finally broke the curse. It's
Burrow finally beat the curse. The week before, they're talking about how he beat Pat Mahomes 3 times this year. Like, why can't he beat the Browns then? And in all fairness, this is probably the worst Browns team he has faced in his NFL.
Yes, for sure.
But at the same time, got the monkey off his back, beat the boys from up north. And I mean, Deshaun Watson took a small step forward, but offensive line still looked like it was struggling a little bit. Watson still needs some time to get in rhythm. But yeah, just it wasn't a good game for the Cleveland Browns. How you look at it?
No, it's not. Do the Browns win this week, Josh? Give a quick prediction before we move on to other sports. Do the Browns win this week? And I think we both can agree they won't make the playoffs, but do the Browns win this week?
Is it Baltimore that they got?
Yes, with a third-string quarterback.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Is like no Lamar Jackson, no Tyler Huntley. So, I mean, they're kind of in the same boat as Cleveland is with no, I guess, stability at the quarterback position right now. And, I mean, for the most part this season, Lamar Jackson, it's kind of been the Lamar Jackson show because that's Lamar. He hasn't really had any help outside the team. So this, I mean, I don't know what the over-under line is on this, but
the Browns are actually favored a little bit. I think they're favored by a point or so, or maybe a little bit more. I don't know exactly.
Probably better. I'd probably be considering hitting the under if it was low enough. There's not going to be a lot of offense in this one. No. So yes, be looking at the Browns' interior defensive line. I'm sure Baltimore is going to be a team that wants.
They suck so bad
in this one. We got to make sure that those dudes are, I guess, improving, stepping up interior defensive line, the linebackers. And then if you're on the Cleveland side, get Nick Chubb in rhythm, man. He hasn't been himself last couple of games, or maybe just hasn't been used the same. And if you're just maybe just getting one touchdown would be enough to win this week. So I'll go ahead and take Cleveland in this one. I think, like you said, though, I think they got 9 losses now, so they're probably out of the playoff hunt unless there's other teams that are under 500 in the AFC. But yeah, I'll go with a slight Cleveland Browns victory this week with all the injuries that Baltimore's dealing with.
I agree. I want to go Cleveland win. I think it's going to be close, but I do think Nick Chubb, I think if they get ahead early, we've talked about this before, if they get ahead early, they'll use Chubb. If they don't, Chubb won't touch the ball. So the Browns key, and I'll be honest, this is an audition for Watson going into next year for these guys. There's not many free agents on this team, so a lot of these guys will be back next year. But it's also, I agree with what one analysis said. They just wasted another prime years of Garrett, of Watson, and of Chubb. They've wasted prime years. Got 2 guys that are going to get older. They're not getting younger. And again, I think we both agree when the talent's all there, this Browns team could compete with anybody, but it's the coaching that hasn't been there and a lot of other things. So that is the football talk for today. We are going to be moving on. We have a few things. We're going to talk about baseball. We're going to talk about the World Cup. We're going to finish up with some basketball talk because, there's a big rivalry game. It's not really a rivalry, but there's a big game happening this weekend between 2 foes sitting in this room. But we will first talk about some baseball because we haven't talked about baseball, Josh, in probably 2 months, maybe more. So
the World Series, probably, yeah.
Yeah. So Josh, what are some things that you've noticed throughout free agency? Are there anything that we should talk about, discuss, go at it?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of moves that have been happening and moves that continue to happen. But, I mean, the most notable one is probably Aaron Judge staying in New York. He had a lot of big money offers from the Giants. It was even, I think, reported too soon that he was head to the Giants. And then I can't remember who it was, if it was Heyman or somebody like that. It was just like, that was a lie. It was looking that way, but it didn't become official. And then the Giants
feel awful.
Yeah, I think the Padres took a swing at Judge too, but he ended up staying in New York for less money. And I mean, the quote that's coming out of all of it is that he wanted to be a Yankee, that his legacy more important than how much money he got. And it just feels right that Judge stays in New York. That's what I thought he would do ultimately. And I mean, it's not like New York's short of money. They give him a nice payday too to stay. But yeah, Judge with New York just sounds right. I felt like he was going to be a lifer, similar to how Derek Jeter was in some of those were.
Well, even how he said, like I was telling you this before we started recording, he said that he like basically they called him, Steinbrenner called him or whatever and said, hey, do you want to be a Yankee? And they already had a deal kind of in place. And he goes, yeah. And then he drops 40 more million on him and says, hey, we'll put 40 more on the total, which I think is just kind of cool. Like, I think that just shows you like they trust him. And I also think the Giants kind of blew it by whoever blew this thing, because I think there is a chance he could have went to the Giants. But I think when that whole thing kind of leaked out, it kind of put a sour taste in the Giants, for the Judge.
That Tom Brady was retiring and then he like unretired like how Schefter did, like Brady just kind of did to spite them. Maybe there's a little bit of spite in the Judge move there to stay New York a little bit. I think ultimately he was going to stay in New York.
Do you think that's too much money and too many years for a guy that's 30 years old? What's your thought?
Total years, was it 8 years or
9 years? 9 years, 360 million.
I mean, all these baseball contracts, man, it seems like
Joey Votto.
They don't care how old they're going to be at the end of it. I mean, Judge isn't even the only one this offseason that's gotten a contract that's going to continue to go until he's 38. I think Xander Bogaerts got a deal that's
11 year. Yeah, 11 year, 280.
Yeah, he's going to be 41 when that ends. And it's like, okay, I don't know why they're doing that. But, it's baseball. They're paying them for mostly what they've accomplished and what they will give the team in their prime years. But then,
we also don't know the clauses either. We don't know the clauses in some of these contracts. It might be like the first 8 years they have all this money, and then the last 3 are very low in salary. Like we don't always know those details until they're released to the public.
True. Yeah. I mean, we can look at the annual average, but they might be getting a little bit more year to year based on. I'm sure there's a little bit of that.
Even Jacob deGrom, which I think that to me that's the biggest shock. I think Jacob deGrom leaving New York to me was a bigger shock. I mean, they replaced him with Justin Verlander, so I mean, it's not like you're really, but for me, like Jacob deGrom going to Texas, I'm just looking at the Rangers like, yeah, but they haven't shown you anything really. Like they've been there, they're spending money, but where's the winning with that?
Last 2 off seasons, I think they've spent over $700 million. I saw.
Yeah, and it's like, where's the winning? Like, there's no winning happening.
Like to me, deGrom, like this move that. With him just leaving New York in general, is just like, I'm sick and tired of not having any run support whatsoever. And I don't think that the Rangers are going to give him that, but he's just like,
or the taxes,
no support, terrible in-state tax, terrible, run government here and rules that we got. Like, let me go to Texas where I can be free. You know what I mean?
There's the political joke for the day, guys.
Probably not. I mean, money talks too. They gave him a nice deal.
I mean, they gave him, I don't even remember what his deal was, to be honest with you. But I know Justin Verlander, were you interested that Justin Verlander said no to going like back to Detroit or staying with Houston, but decided to go
that was a shock to me.
New York?
I thought he would just stay in Houston. I mean, you just won the World Series there. I think he got the AL Cy Young this year too, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really know what the appeal in New York was, other than just, I mean, some people do like New York City. But I mean,
his wife too is I think a model and stuff too, I think, or something like that.
Up to it, yeah. So maybe that played a factor into it too. I mean, Giselle with Tom Brady when they were married, I think played a role in him going to Tampa Bay because she living in New England. So maybe the big city life was just meant for them, or was a more. I don't know. But in New York, I mean, they don't really, I guess, miss a beat. They got Scherzer there now. They got Verlander. I think they did lose Chris Bassett though.
They did, yes.
Yeah.
They have Lindor. They have Lindor locked up, which I still interesting about that. But Josh,
they got a while, man.
Yeah. This was the year of the shortstop, obviously, of the money. Which of these 3 deals? I'm going to read these 3 deals. Which one are you worried about? Which one you're like, okay, I can stand with that, and which one you're like, that was a good deal. So here's the 3 I was going to talk about. Trey Turner. 11 years, $300 million, going to the Phillies. San Diego Padres signed Xander Bogaerts to an 11-year, $280 million deal. And the division rival San Francisco Giants went in and got Carlos Correa, also like 30 or 29, for a 13-year, $350 million deal. Which one of these are you most concerned about? Which one you're like, I'm fine with it, totally fine. And which one you're like, wow, that was a good deal. That was a kind of a steal in a sense.
I want to say Correa is the one that I'm most worried about.
Okay.
And that's because
it's a long time.
You're going to have to it is a long time. You're going to have to fact check me on this too. He didn't have a great season in Minnesota, did he?
He had, let me look at Carlos Correa's numbers. I have them pulled up here.
Like American League All-Star Carlos Correa numbers, at least.
He did have a comeback year when it comes to numbers. So he hit 291. He had 22 homers, 64 RBIs. Now that's nothing compared to his last year with the Astros, where he had 26 and 92, when he also had some of those other crazy years where he had 20 and 96 and was hitting in the uppers of 280. But I agree with you. That one's the one you're most worried about, correct? That's the one you're kind of most worried about.
And in general, too, the Giants don't really have the offense.
He's
so
28, by the way. Sorry, he's 28.
28. Okay, yeah, the Giants don't really have the offense either, so they're really going to be needing his bat to, I guess.
Do you think? Do you think they were banking on trying to land Judge and him? Like they were trying to land Judge and get him, so that's like a two point there.
Maybe both, and then you hit on one. The reason why I'm not so worried if I'm the Padres is because they did lose Josh Bell, but they've been making a lot of moves lately. Like they got, Tatis coming back next year. They made the move to get Juan Soto, so they got Manny Machado. Like they are in win now.
Where does Bogarts play though? That's my question.
I think what I heard was they're going to move Tatis to the outfield, and they're going to keep Bogarts at shortstop.
They're going to move Tatis to the outfield.
Yeah, just because of how athletic he is. They don't
center
think
or left?
I'm not sure which position, but
it would be interesting to see.
Tatis is pretty athletic enough that I think you could put him anywhere on the field, and he would probably do all right.
Suspended for a while, so
yeah, I think he comes back halfway next year. But bottom line, the Padres are kind of in win now mode, so I'm not so worried that contract is gonna, like I said, it sucks. He's gonna be 41 when it ends, but with them being in win now mode, you kind of got to do something like that. So the Giants, it just kind of seems like with them, they whiffed on some of these other guys they probably wanted more so, and so
threw all the money.
Maybe reached for Correa a little bit there. Plus, like I said, their offense isn't the best, so they're going to really need his bat to carry the offense, and I'm not sure that he's going to be capable of that.
So are you saying Bogarts is like you're okay, like you're just solid move, good move?
Situation San Diego's in, and
so
then
you're Trey Turner.
Trey Turner's the one I love. He's proven that he can play with two teams, the Nationals and the Dodgers. He's basically been like the batting title kind of guy. Plays with some swagger, teaming back up with Bryce Harper, former teammates with the Nationals. I love that move for Philly. Coming off the World Series last year, they make another splash in the offseason. They've been making like all these kind of subtle moves, like getting guys like Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos in there, and now they get another one that maybe Trey Turner.
Don't talk to me about Castellanos, Josh. It hurts.
Yeah, maybe Trey Turner's the missing link to a World Series. We'll see what happens. That division is still loaded up. I'm sure the Mets aren't really going anywhere in terms of contending, and the Braves are going to be around for a long time. But the Phillies, I love the move to go and get Turner and boost your offense.
And we still have Dansby Swanson on the board too. That could be going somewhere. So for me, this is how I go, Josh, and I agree with you on the Carlos Correa one. Actually, to me, when you look at his analytics, to me, it's not, I don't see him as my lowest one. Actually, with Carlos Correa, I think that his analytics show you, and also just the way he had last year, I think he can do all right. They have enough pieces to kind of surround him for now, and then they'll add more, I'm hoping, right? I'm more worried about the fact that it's 13 years at 28 years old. That's the one thing that worries me a little bit. But actually, the one that actually kind of worries me a little bit is and maybe not so as much, but I guess Xander Bogaerts a little bit more just because of the age, but also because to me, you already had three shortstops and now they're saying Tatis is going to move. It makes more sense, but still, what are you going to do with a lot of these guys up the middle that you got to figure out what to do with, where to play? So for me, I don't have a middle one. I have those two as kind of like the low okay. Like they're not amazing. They're just solid, right? Like they're just solid okays. Trey Turner, for me, I agree with you. That is a genius move. If you're Philly, that is the perfect move. It shores up the middle of the infield. You have Bryce Harper. You have Castellanos. We won't talk about it. And then we have Schwarber. We have a lot of these guys that you're really going to be doing well.
Real Muto.
Yeah, I mean, they're loaded.
They almost have Gene Segura. I think their whole starting lineup now might be free agent acquisitions. They even have a homegrown guy in their starting lineup.
Their third baseman, right? Whoever their third baseman is. I can't remember his name. I think their third baseman was a homegrown guy.
Yeah, maybe him. Name escapes me.
You know what's crazy though? I'm looking at all these different deals, and we'll go through a couple of them. Then, you know how many the Reds did, Josh? You know how many moves they did? One. You know who they was? It was Luke Maile, from Cleveland.
Yeah,
that's all they did. That's literally all they did.
Darn it, we lost a catcher that hit sub 200.
Just shut up, okay? Just shut up.
No, that's a huge loss for Cleveland, dude, because you know how much they love catchers that don't hit 200.
That is true. that is 100%.
They were in the running, apparently, to get Sean Murphy from the A's, and I kept telling all my Indians fans that, look, he's a catcher that hits over 200. They're not going to – and sure enough, they did not. So the move for John, although I like that move. We saw in the playoffs last year how much it sucks not having a guy that can hit home runs.
Yeah.
A team that can hit, 2 home runs and 2 at bats is probably going to be a little bit more lethal in the playoffs than a team that comes up and gets 4 hits in an inning, but they're all singles. So that's what we saw last year. All the guys are contact hitters. None of them could just empty or clear the bases. And I think Josh Bell's bat is one that can do that now.
And you also got Mike Zunino, catcher from Tampa Bay on a 1-year, $6 million deal. I think it's like basically a low cost. Not really. It's going to kill you either way. He also is more of a power hitting catcher, so we'll see how that goes. And you also got Anthony Gose. If you don't remember, those of you who don't know, he's a pitcher, but it was a former outfielder, kind of was away from baseball, played for the U.S. in the Olympics this year, and signed with the Indians on a 2-year, $2 million deal. So I think it's probably a part-time minor league deal, I'm guessing, in that range. So how do you feel on your Guardians? Those are the moves that are the latest to update. I'm sure there's more moves, but
I believe they retained a lot of their bullpen, which is awesome.
Did, yes.
Huge strength of the team. So yeah, I didn't think they'd go and get Bell. I figured after they whiffed on the trade last year that they wouldn't be able to get him at all, or wouldn't really put much of an effort. There's also they're also in talks to get or bring back, I should say, Michael Brantley, a guy that used to be in the organization, went to Houston.
Yeah.
And he's old and I guess can't contribute. They're willing to bring him back, or at least would like back. That's classic Cleveland, man. We bring back Kenny Lofton, we bring back Jim Thome. It's just kind of like something that Cleveland really seems to do. And I mean, it's good for fans and jersey sales and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I would have rather given Brantley the 3-year, $30 million contract that the Astros gave him. Like, that's not asking too much, I don't think.
Yeah. So some of these other deals I'm going to just mention, and I want you to tell me we're going to play a little game here, Josh. I want you to tell me green as like green light, like good deal, smart move, or red light, like what are you doing? All right. I'm going to name not everyone, but just some of the bigger names. All right. We're going to go down the list here. So we're going to start with the Arizona Diamondbacks. That one's terrible. No one's going to talk about that. Nobody. Oh, here's one. Baltimore Orioles, Kyle Gibson from Philly. Green light, red light.
You're going to have to tell me who Kyle Gibson is.
So Kyle Gibson played for the Phillies. He was in the rotation in the playoffs, had a pretty good year. He didn't have a great year, was a decent across the board for the Phillies. Is that good for Baltimore, or is that like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't remember seeing him in the playoffs either. So, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say green light just because Baltimore seemed like a team that was just giving up last year. They traded away pieces like Mancini, and they still finished above 500. So Baltimore maybe slowly building something up here. So I'll say nice.
By the way, his stats, I'll read you his stats. His stats last year were he went 10-8 with a 5.05 ERA. I don't know about his postseason here. I can't find his postseason, but that obviously is not amazing, but I think it's someone to fill the role of a fifth starter or a fourth starter, something like that.
I'll just say like green light because of A for effort. Like, hey, Baltimore doing true trying here, at least I see it.
I have 2 for the Boston Red Sox. I have Matsutaka Yoshida from Japan for 5 years, $90 million. Green light, red light.
Hey, we've seen the Red Sox have some success with some of the imports. Like Daisuke Matsuzaka had some nice years way back when. So I'll go ahead and say green light. I like it.
Do you think the money is about right? You think $90 million is good to spend on someone that you have never really seen play in the major leagues?
It's those are always the tough ones, man. Like even with the Angels getting Ohtani, he didn't initially translate, and it was like, oh man, they gave this guy all this money, and they also usually pay a lot of money just to even have
the
like
fee,
yeah. So I don't really know the details of all of that, but dude seems like the next best prospect coming out of there. So I'll go ahead and say green light for Boston, especially with all the pieces they've been losing lately. They need somebody besides Evers in there, and he's
a good hitter. I heard he's a very good hitter. So. Kenley Jansen with Boston, 2 years, $32 million. Good deal. Green light, or like, what are you doing?
That's solid. I'll say green light just because Kenley has.
You can do yellow light too, by the way. If you're in the middle, Josh, you can do yellow light.
I was almost yellow light, but Kenley Jansen's been one of the best closers in baseball. Yeah, consistent. I know he's getting older though, so 16 million yearly average for a closer, especially in the playoffs, is always nice to have. It's gonna be interesting to see if Boston can even get to the playoffs this year, but I like the move. I'll say green light.
All right, moving on to the Cubs. 2 deals here. Jamison Talion he played for the New York Yankees last year. He had a 4-year deal, $68 million. Would you like me to read you his stats?
Tell me them.
His stats they weren't bad actually. They were decent, but he's also, if you didn't know, he played for the Pirates, so that's saying a lot. No, he was 14-5 with a 3.91 ERA, had 151 strikeouts.
That's good for the Cubs. I'll say green light. They're looking for another pitcher for sure.
Next one, Cody Bellinger, 1 year, $17.5 million for Cody Bellinger. By the way, who has not been the same since his MVP year.
I mean,
17
might be a little high for me. I'll say yellow light, but it is a prove it deal with only 1 year.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and say yellow light for the Cubs on that one.
I'm going to do the Reds. Red light. Sign somebody. That's what I'm going to say. Okay, moving on. We're going to go to the Rockies next. Actually, no, they have nobody really. Never mind. Detroit Tigers, no. Oh, Houston Astros. Here's a big one that I think you'll go with. Jose Abreu, 3 years, $58.5 million. I know he's a little bit older now. Was this a smart move, or is it like, man, you're going to be paying a lot of guys anyways? Or like, what is your feeling on that? Green light, yellow light, red light.
I like it. This is a guy that I thought that was going to get initially, but yeah, I mean, they can probably just put him at DH to be honest.
Yeah.
Julie Gurriel still playing first base, and with his defense, I think you'd rather have him at first, and then you can just let Abreu focus only on hitting. And like you said, with him getting older, that's always a nice convenience to have there. I'll go with green light for Houston. Nice job.
I'll go more like a yellow. I think mainly just the money scares me a little bit with how much they're spending on him. He hasn't been, I mean, he was MVP in 2020, but I don't count that because I was like 65 games. Like, it's really hard to count someone as an MVP when you had played 65 games. But that's for me. They also had another one, but I don't really know who he is. That's my bad. Didn't do the research on that guy. But here we go, the Dodgers. Now, this is interesting, Josh. They didn't spend a ton of money, really, so far. Clayton Kershaw, 1 year, $20 million. Is it worth it? I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say on this, but
green light.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Big.
Yeah. Now 20 million seems steep, people, if you're listening, but it's really not for what he's done for that organization. That is nothing. So he is older too. Jason Hayward, 1 year, 720,000 from the Cubs.
Minor league contract, right? So he may not even see the big leagues. So yeah, I mean, if you can get Hayward to hit maybe 260 this season, I mean that's a great contract sign right there. Team friendly. It's very rare that you see the Dodgers pay anyone less than 100 million, much less under 1 million. So I'll say nice job. The friendly deal.
The latest one that just happened, I think yesterday, Noah Syndergaard, 1 year, 13 million. Now, it's interesting they're only signing these guys to 1 year deals. Are you surprised? First off, give me your light color, and then are you surprised there's only a 1 year deal for Noah, for Thor?
Syndergaard, I think, is going to be replacing Tyler Anderson.
Yeah,
because I think the Angels. So now you got a rotation with Kershaw, Walker Buehler. I can't remember if he's missing all next season with Tommy John or if he'll be able to return it all. But Arias is solid. So you really do kind of need another arm in there. Dustin May hopefully back too. So Syndergaard's thing is always health though. So seems like in a rotation that has
13 million too much.
Asked that I don't think 13 million is too much. It's just kind of like you already got guys that struggle with injuries in rotation, and Syndergaard struggles with health too. So I'm more yellow light on Syndergaard than I am the contract itself.
Yeah, I'm a yellow light mainly for the injuries. I haven't seen Syndergaard truly healthy, probably in 3 years. Yeah, 3 years maybe is the last time we saw him healthy.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting one there. Minnesota Twins, Christian Vasquez from Houston, the catcher from Houston, signs a 3 year, $30 million deal with the Twins. Very interesting move. I don't really understand that move, but for him, I think meant more than anything. But
they lost. I think it was William Contreras, I believe, their catcher.
Yeah.
I can't remember where he went. So I think Vasquez was a great guy to fill in. Has a solid bat. Played with the Astros last year. He's got a decent glove behind the plate. So I think I like the move. Green light.
Green light. Now we go to the Mets, which we know have spent way too much money. Brandon Nimmo, 8 years, $162 million. This one for me, I'm just going to say right now, is leaning more towards red. But that's just me.
I'll go with that too.
Like
Yeah.
I'm honestly, I'm
Yeah.
going to say red. I'm just going to say red because I don't like that deal at all. It's too much money for a guy that has not really proven himself outside of 1 year.
Yeah. Well, I'll go yellow. It could work out, but yeah, the Mets just always seem to shell out these huge
I
contracts that
know.
don't.
Bobby Bonilla. Bobby Bonilla.
And Max Scherzer might be the only one that they end up getting that we see, right?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And then Edwin Diaz, we won't talk about. They re-signed him, but I think we both agree that's a good move, so we won't discuss it too much. We talked about Justin Verlander. What about Kodai Senga from Japan? 5 years, 75 million. Adds a huge arm to I think what they lost. They're going to gain back with Kodai Senga. Do you like the move? I mean, it's Japanese arm. We never really know how they're going to be, but I guess he's been very good in Japan. So
they seem to have solid pitchers that always come over here. The pitchers seem to do a little bit better than the hitters, so I'll go ahead and say green light on that one.
I'm going to say yellow just because I have not seen him pitch really against MLB guys. So I'm going to say yellow. Just be cautious. They also signed 2 more pitchers who can do this as a tandem. Jose Quintana and David Robertson. David Robertson, 1 year, 10 million from Philly, and Jose Quintana from the Cardinals, 2 years, 26 million. For both of those, do you agree with the move, or do you think that's just they're starting to waste money at that point?
I like them. I mean, they like we said earlier, they lost Bassett, they lost DeGrom. You gotta have a solid pitching rotation once you get to
Robertson
the playoff.
in the background, in the back end.
Yeah, I like those moves. We'll go green light.
All right, nice.
I don't have really.
Yankees. These 2 moves are. We're not going to talk about Aaron Judge. We're talking about Anthony Rizzo. 2 years, 40 million. Green light, yellow light, red light. Love it.
Yeah, he seems to be fitting in New York nice with the clubhouse and that
Right about a
fence.
money. Right about a money. Right
Yeah,
amount.
20 year for Rizzo. I'll take that.
And the other one is Tommy Cannell from the Dodgers. I believe he was the bullpen guy, setup guy. 2 years, 11.5 million. I think it's a good deal because it gives you an arm for not really that much money, really, to be honest.
Yeah, I like that too. Green light, big green light.
Yeah, and then the A's, they got Jace Peterson from Milwaukee for 2 years, 9.5, and then Aldamis Diaz from Houston for 2 years, 14.5. I say these because they're just 2, basically, I think more of like a rotation guys, but I think it's a good deal because you're getting them under 10 million each for each of those guys.
And the A's sold everybody last year, and I don't think they signed a single guy. So A for effort again with the A's, I guess.
Yeah, and also we're about to talk about the Phillies. Also, we forgot the Mets lost also Tejan Walker because we're about to talk about him here for the Phillies. Tejan Walker from New York had 4 years at a 4-year, $72 million deal. Good. Green light, yellow light, red light.
And where's he headed?
He's headed to Philly.
Man, dude, Philly keeps hitting all these signings, man. I'd be surprised if they missed on another one. So
green light, huh?
Yeah, go with the green light.
I would say Philly's green. I'm more cautiously green light. I'm more of like a yellow towards green. I don't know if I don't know if we've seen enough of him continuously throughout for me. So that is for him. Now the Pirates, we won't talk about because they literally did nothing other than Carlos Santana, former Indian. That's literally the only move they've made really that's any relevant. San Diego Padres, they signed Robert Suarez. It doesn't say who he played for last year, but 5 years, 46 million. I think he's a bullpen arm, I believe, or maybe starter. Interesting move. We'll go by that. Mariners did nothing. Oh, here, Giants. This will be good for you. Sean Manaea, 2 years, 25 million from San Diego. I'm going to go yellow.
Yeah, we'll go yellow. I don't know.
He's been inconsistent. He has not been the same since his rookie year. He's been very inconsistent. When he was with the Athletics, he's been inconsistent since then. And then Mitch Haniger from Seattle, 3 years, 43.5 million. What do you think of that? I'm going to go yellow.
Yellow, maybe a little high, but it could pan out for him.
Man, the Giants are just we're brutalizing the Giants today. Ross Stripling from Toronto, 2 years, 25 million.
Where did he come from?
Toronto.
And he's with the Giants now?
Yes.
How did he do last year?
He did. Also, I believe he played for the Cardinals. Was it the Cardinals he played for? No, the Dodgers, I believe. I think he played for the Dodgers. Here we go. His stats were... Dun, dun, dun. All right. He was 10-4 with a 3.01 ERA. in 24 starts, 32 games pitched.
That's a solid season. I'll
Yeah.
give it a green light. Nice job.
Hey, we're being nice. I'll give a green light too. And then the final one was Jock Peterson for 1 year, 19.7 million. I'm going to go red light. I'm going red light on this one.
That's so high, man.
That's so high.
Jock seems like a cool guy to have in the locker room, keep everybody loose, fun to hang out with. But that's a lot of money for the production that he gives you. I'll go red light as well. You could have kept him, but you didn't have to give him that much.
Yeah. Wilson Contreras, I love that. This is green light 1,000%. 5 years, 87 million to the Cardinals from the Cubs. He is going to fit in perfectly, replacing Molina. It's awesome.
Definitely big green light. Love it. Like you said, you've got basically 2 decades out of Hall of Fame catcher Molina, and you might have
another one
right over here. Yep.
Let's see. Next one, we'll skip the Rays. We'll go to the Rangers. Not really much there. We're getting to the end here, and then we'll go one here with the Nationals, and we'll see what you think about this one. No, not Nationals. Sorry, Blue Jays. Chris Bassett from the Mets, 3 years, 63 million. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like the move for Toronto, man. They've been kind of like Philly, where they've been making a lot of moves, getting guys like George Springer to come over, getting guys like Matt Chapman last year, and a couple other nice pitchers that they've signed, and now they got another one over here with Bassett. So I love the move for Toronto, building something special. I thought they could be in the World Series, maybe last year or this year. So they're just build towards it.
I mean, it's great. It's great. I love the free agency because you never know what's going to happen, Josh. That's what makes free agency great. Other than the fact that we know that the Reds will never spend money in free agency. It's the one thing we know because they suck, Josh. I finally got a Red suck thing after 2 months, Josh. I did it finally. Yeah. So to finish up here, we're gonna briefly talk about the World Cup and then briefly talk about the basketball matchups. World Cup, Josh. World Cup. Who do you got? Who do you got winning it all? We have Argentina versus France. Who do you have winning it all? Both of our teams are out, so we don't really talk about that. Jared is still excited, but we won't talk about him either. So,
sorry, I was just muting that because there's a answering machine going on there.
No worries. So, who do you got?
Argentina and France.
Yes. Who do you got? Prediction is score too. I want a prediction from Josh, the soccer expert. A score prediction. Who scores the game-winning goal? That's what I want to know from Josh.
Well, the perfect fairy tale ending would be Messi gets the go-ahead goal, right, in his first victory.
There you go.
Mbappe and France. So let's go with a 2-1 Argentina victory.
Ooh, in regulation, or are they going into like extra time and then penalties? Like what are you thinking?
It'll be regulation.
I'm going to go. Jared's about to hate me when I do this. I'm going to go France because there hasn't been a team, by the way, to go back-to-back since the 90s, I believe. It's been a long time. I'm going to go France wins. I'm going to go 1-0. France wins. Mbappe, like 60th minute goal. France wins. I get to rub it in Jared's face that Argentina didn't win. That's the only reason I'm doing this. But no, that is my prediction. Yeah. And now, Josh, we should be nice to the third and fourth place team. So give a prediction on the third place game, Morocco versus Croatia. Who you got in this game? Morocco's been Morocco's been the Cinderella story.
Cinderella, yeah. Who saw that coming, man? Morocco.
Jared's about the only one that saw that coming.
He did like a lot of the Africa teams, didn't he? Let's go ahead and say Morocco ends this on a high note, man.
So what's the score prediction? Croatia's a decent team. Not amazing, but I think they're good.
Let's go with a 1-0 in extra time.
Okay, I'm going to go Morocco as well, but I'm going to go it's 0-0 at the end of full time, and then I'm going to go penalty shootout. Morocco wins in a penalty shootout. That's what I'm going to go with. So that is the World Cup for you. We're going to switch on over here to finish up. We're not going to talk too much NBA because it's the NBA and it's politics. No, I will say this though: the Cavs have a better record than LeBron James' Lakers. That's all that matters, and they're third place. Josh, Cavs are doing something special. But we will talk about your Tar Heels and how they're struggling, and they're about to face the Ohio State University Buckeyes this weekend in the Classic. It's going to be a great game. So, Josh, What are your thoughts on the Tar Heels lately? What's been going on with them? What do you think's been happening? And then I'll give my thoughts on Ohio State, and then we'll give our prediction for the game on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know. I should have done more research into this beforehand, but I know some of the teams that they were losing to were pretty good teams.
Yeah, they were. Yes.
It's not like they were. I mean, they just got a win over the Citadel the other day by about points. So it's not like it's not like losing to any teams like that. But I don't even bring that up just to say like nice win. It's just like, okay, well, we've been at least losing to some teams that I guess you could say, yeah, respect. But it would have been nice if they could have actually beaten a good team too. So I don't really think they got many quality wins right now. And with, like we've been saying all year, with the amount of guys that they got coming back, they were like the clear preseason number one favorite. I think that was pretty unanimous across the board. But maybe there's just some extra things that they got to get figured out. The main four veterans are still there, but they got some new dudes in.
Young
like
guys.
I think they call them the Biscuit Boys or the Biscuit Brothers or something like that.
Biscuit Brothers.
I've been seeing on Instagram with like the Barstool UNC account. It's these two dudes that just kind of like drain threes.
Yeah.
And fight. So I don't know if that's where the nickname Biscuit comes from, or if there's like an inside joke there. But maybe I'll find out for next week's podcast. But
let us know for next week's podcast.
Other guys too, like Puff Johnson, stepping up into bigger roles. So yeah, that's kind of like North Carolina right now. I wouldn't say it's time to give up, but it is kind of shocking to like lose. I think it was 4 games in a row and then go from being preseason number one favorite to unranked. Like that's just wild, but still very early in the season and plenty of time to gain ground.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing for Ohio State. I mean, they're 7-2. They're in the top 25, which I didn't see coming. They're very young. I don't know if you know this, Josh, but they have like basically 4 freshmen that are contributing full time. So it's very nerve-wracking when I watch them because I'm like, and they've lost their starting point guard for a little bit. But Zed Key has been a man. I've never seen a post player at Ohio State since Jared Sullinger, really. So for me, Ohio State's a very interesting team. We'll talk more about college basketball as the weeks go on. But I think Ohio State's a very interesting team. I think they're a dangerous team, a very dangerous team. If they get their everything going right. I'm very interested to see this game. They're finally going to play a really tough team. They've played a couple tough teams in Hawaii. This is the first, I think, really tough physical team they've been playing. So it's going to be very interesting. Josh, before we go, what is your prediction for the Ohio State-North Carolina game? What do you got? Who do you got winning this thing?
Well, I'd love to see Carolina like get on their feet with a quality win, and I am a little biased, so I'll go ahead and say Carolina wins this thing 85-78.
85-78. All right. I'm going to go Ohio State, obviously. I'm going the Ohio State University beat North Carolina. I'm going to go 74-62. I think Ohio State's got a couple guys I think can score, stretch the game. So it's going to be a very interesting game as we go on. But then again, we never know. It's basketball. Anything can happen. We all know how the March Madness went last year. So I will say, Josh, it's been a great week of sports. We got this episode for you. I will say that we will have an episode before Christmas, and then we will have one obviously after that as well. So, but we do hope you guys have some great time with the holidays. If you're traveling this weekend, make sure you stay safe. Again, we want to say our thoughts and prayers are with Mike Leach and his family, or Mike Leach's family, because that is a tough time, Josh. And I know we've talked about at the beginning of the show. It's not an easy time. He's meant a lot to so many people. So we really do our thoughts and everything like that out there. Josh, anything final things to say on this episode before we call it a day?
No, I mean, we're far enough into the college basketball season. You got any teams that you'd say are like previewing for the Final Four?
Yeah, I got one. Alabama. I really think Alabama could really make a run for it.
This is the first time I think their basketball program has been ranked higher than the football program since Nick Saban got there.
Yeah, so I'm going Alabama and Purdue. Those are my two teams.
Might be too, man. They're number one. They're undefeated.
They have a 7'5" guy who's just a freaking animal.
Zach Edey, baby. Yeah, so definitely teams to watch out for. I'm saying don't count Carolina out just yet. And I'm hearing other good things about teams like Arkansas and Auburn and Houston too. Yeah,
it's going to be a crazy season. So like we said, hey, I can't wait for March Madness. We can't wait for that. A lot of things are going to happen before then, though. We got a lot of sports stuff to happen. We will talk more bowl games next week. We will preview the Ohio State Georgia game, Michigan TCU game at some point coming up. So don't worry about that. That will be happening. But make sure if you've loved this episode, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Hey, we always love doing this. We love you being a part of it. We've been growing both on YouTube and on Spotify. If you've been loving it on Spotify, share it with your friends, share it with your family, whether you listen to it in the car, at home, at work. I mean, maybe not too much at work, but still, if you do, no, not a problem there. We really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in every single week. We appreciate it. I know Josh and I both appreciate it. It's fun to talk about sports. And again, leave in the comments, who do you think had the best offseason move so far in the Major League Baseball? And what are your thoughts on the death of Coach Leach, and how has that impacted maybe you or people around you? Let us know in the comments. We love to hear all that and so much more. So once again, thank you. And until next time, we'll see ya.